Story 1 of 5. Analysis of The Devil Wears Prada 2 sequel release, reception, and cultural impact. Analysis of The Devil Wears Prada 2 sequel release, reception, and cultural impact. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Meryl Streep reprised her role as Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada 2 released in 2026 after a 20-year gap from the original, 2006. The film's production budget was approximately $100 million, significantly higher than the original's $35 million, with cast salaries accounting for about half the budget. The film earned $233 million worldwide in its opening weekend, with $77 million in North America and $156.6 million internationally, making it the highest-grossing opening weekend for a Meryl Streep film. Lady Gaga appeared in the film as herself, performing a new song titled Shape of a Woman *, with her cameo reportedly costing $2.5 million. The film features cameos from high-profile figures including Tina Brown, Donatella Versace, Marc Jacobs, Heidi Klum, Karl Anthony Towns, and others from fashion, media, and sports. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states that Miranda Priestley's character is mellowed in the sequel, while ABC describes her as still ruthless but with a melancholy, human presence, suggesting differing interpretations of her arc. The Guardian implies that Anna Wintour's cameo was an endorsement too far and thus excluded, while ABC notes she posed with Streep for *Vogue* but did not appear in the film. The Guardian mentions that Miranda's boyfriend Kenneth Branagh's role was bizarrely reduced to a violinist with a random line about alcoholism, while ABC does not comment on this detail. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Story 2 of 5. Australia and Japan sign agreements on energy, defense, and critical minerals. Australia and Japan sign agreements on energy, defense, and critical minerals. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Prime Ministers Anthony Albanese, Australia, and Takeshi Sinai, Japan, met in Canberra on the 4th of May, 2026 for annual leaders' talks. The two countries signed agreements on defense, energy, and critical minerals cooperation, including a joint declaration on economic security cooperation. The agreements highlight 6 rare earths projects, including the Lynas Rare Earths Project in Kalgoorlie and Alcoa's Gallium Recovery Project, to diversify supply chains. Japan and Australia agreed to stand against all forms of economic coercion and non-market policies affecting critical minerals supply chains. The leaders described the relationship as quasi-allies and increasingly indispensable in difficult times. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian does not explicitly mention the number of agreements signed, ABC reports 4 separate agreements, nor the specific projects listed in the critical minerals deal. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Story 3 of 5. State Memorial Service honors legendary AFL commentator Dennis Cometti. State Memorial Service honors legendary AFL commentator Dennis Cometti. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Dennis Cometti died on March 3, 2026, aged 76 after suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Cometti was born in Geraldton, Western Australia, in 1949. Cometti played 38 games and kicked 70 goals for West Perth in the WAFL. Cometti coached West Perth in 1982. Cometti's state memorial service was held at Optus Stadium, Perth Stadium, on May 4, 2026. But not all outlets told the same story. News Kamau states Cometti was inducted into the WA Football Hall of Fame in 2021, while ABC does not mention this specific year but confirms his induction into the WA Football Hall of Fame. News Kamau lists Trevor Nisbet as an attendee, but ABC does not mention him. News Kamau specifies Eddie Maguire, Peter Bell, and Matthew Pavlik as attendees, but ABC does not list them. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Story 4 of 5. Victoria's 2026 budget crisis, debt, and election pressures. Victoria's 2026 budget crisis, debt, and election pressures. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Victoria's 2025-26 government spending is forecast at 16.4% of gross state product, GSP, up from 14.5% in 2018-19, despite repeated budget promises to reduce it. Health spending as a share of GSP rose from 4.25% in 2017 to 5% in 2025, while interest repayments doubled from 0.6% to 1.2% over the same period. Victoria's debt is projected to reach $192.6 billion by 2029, with daily interest costs forecast to hit $28.8 million by that year. The E61 Institute's analysis warns Victoria is boxed in with limited fiscal maneuverability, citing health and interest expenses as the biggest drivers of spending growth. Victoria's 2026 budget is due on May 7th, with pre-budget announcements including $760 million for new expanded schools, $50.1 million for 4,000 additional children's surgeries, and $101 million for 000 infrastructure upgrades. But not all outlets told the same story. The Age states Victoria's 2025-26 operating surplus is slightly higher than its forecast of $700 million, while Newscomm does not specify a surplus figure but emphasizes the state's $60 billion in maturing pandemic loans and daily interest costs of $28.8 million by 2029. The Age mentions a $750 million pledge for an unspecified area and $432 million for another, while Newscomm lists $11.2 million for food assistance and $76 million for trains as separate pre-budget announcements, suggesting differing emphasis on specific allocations. The Age cites health spending rising from 4.25% to 5% of GSP, while Newscomm highlights hospital costs per patient rising from lowest on the East Coast in 2017 to above the national average in 2025, without a specific percentage comparison. This story was covered by news.com.au and The Age. Story 5 of 5. US-Iran standoff over Strait of Hormuz shipping blockade and Trump's Project Freedom operation. US-Iran standoff over Strait of Hormuz shipping blockade and Trump's Project Freedom operation. Here's what every outlet agrees on. US President Donald Trump announced a plan, Project Freedom, to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz starting Monday, May 5, 2026, local time, calling it a humanitarian gesture to aid neutral ships stranded due to Iran's blockade. Iran's Unified Armed Forces Command warned US forces to stay out of the Strait of Hormuz and vowed to respond harshly to any threat, stating the security of the Strait of Hormuz is in our hands. Iran has blocked nearly all shipping from the Gulf, excluding its own vessels, for over 2 months, trapping roughly 2,000 ships and 20,000 seafarers, according to the International Maritime Organization and US Central Command. US Central Command will support the operation with 15,000 service members, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, guided missile destroyers, and multi-domain unmanned platforms. A tanker reported being hit by unknown projectiles 78 nautical miles north of Fujairah, UAE, on May 4, 2026, with all crew reported safe. The incident occurred shortly after Trump's announcement. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1, ABC, states Trump's operation is a humanitarian gesture for neutral ships, while Article 2, ABC, and The Guardian describe it as part of a broader US effort to break Iran's hold on the strait amid domestic political pressure. Article 1, ABC, implies the US operation may involve US Navy ships escorting commercial vessels, but Axios, cited in Article 2 ABC and Guardian, reports the Navy will not necessarily escort ships through the strait. Article 1, ABC, mentions Trump's threat to Iran was posted on Truth Social, while The Guardian does not specify the platform but references the threat in the context of Trump's announcement. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.